Review Book 101 is all about the books that are read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is
I,
a osteopath using hands on and regenerative therapies to keep active bodies in motion, other than Mr. Michael Betler.
Hi, Daniel. How are you? Very nice to be here.
Welcome, Mr. Michael, on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Yeah, so I'm an osteopath. I'm very focused on lifestyle medicine. I got board certifications in both general surgery and lifestyle medicine. I'm leaning a lot more heavily into the preventative frame now, trying to keep people active and live a healthy lifestyle throughout their whole lifespan rather than just their years where they get there and then having kind of a big taper off towards their older years.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Michael. Thank you. And today let's talk about guiding, healing, and maintenance therapy for athletes. At its core, its primary goal for athletic therapy is to restore an athletic to their previous form or to use injury as a opportunity to rebuild them into a more resilient and capable version of themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think injury can present an opportunity for the athlete, learning how to get through things, learning how to recover from setback. The things that I've designed at my clinic are things that are non-operative for patients that don't necessarily need an operation and cover that space between family practice who may not want to or know how to deal with patients, and then orthopedic surgeons who tend to lean towards the operation, send to physical therapy. So I found a way to use treatments to assist physical therapy. Multimodality is really the best way to go. So I use things that I learned in residency in med school called osteopathic manipulation, which very much focuses on balance and symmetry within the system, making sure the nervous system, through both balancing the sympathetic and parasympathetic system, are in line to help to balance and avoid injury first, if possible at all. Athletes obviously put themselves through a lot. They go at it hard. So when people do get injured, we can use the realignment. We can use shockwave therapy, which is something that induces the body's own growth factors to heal. And this is good for both chronic and acute injuries. So people that have had injuries from 2 to 3 years, even 20 years, have had success with our treatments. People that have had short-term injuries or just are injured in like a game in high school, we get them back to play faster than they would if they were just going through physical therapy or even nothing and just doing ice and heat and range of motion exercises. So my goal is to keep people active, get them back to activity in a shorter time frame, and I think we've been pretty successful in doing that so far.
And congratulations for being successful in your task, Mr. Michael. How do you navigate the fundamental tension between an athlete's desire to push limits and the therapeutic need for patience and restraint during healing?
Yeah, so recovery is really a key of keeping yourself active and keeping yourself from getting injured. So even if people are not injured, say they did a heavy workout and their hamstrings or their quads or something are hurting, they can come in and get a treatment. We can do realignment. We partner with massage therapists. I just recently partnered with a stem cell guy as well. So we have a lot of options based on what that individual needs to recover and get through. So there's things like ice baths that are great for kind of slowing down any micro injuries. Heat is kind of the key to healing a lot of stuff because it helps to dilate blood vessels, and any increased blood flow helps healing factors get to where they need to be. So recovery is really about finding a balance of what therapies work for that person, be it sauna, cold plunge, things like that, that help them to get back to their performance and keep from getting injured.
Mr. Michael, how do you define maintenance therapy for a healthy athlete? Is it primarily preventive injury avoidance, or is it about optimizing performance capacity?
Optimizing for sure. So, really, the base of kind of everything within medicine goes back to diet and exercise. So, staying active, obviously, all athletes are staying active. But diet, it plays a big part in it too. Avoiding things that will cause inflammation, avoiding things that will not give them the right nutrients is important. So having a very well balanced diet, eating as close to whole foods as possible, working in fruits and vegetables that have a lot of anti-inflammatory properties to them are very important things to get a base of what every athlete and every person really needs to prevent injury as much as possible from the base standpoint. And if you have that base set, then your recovery will be better and you will respond to treatments much easier.
Healthy food indeed, for sure. Healthy food. What is the most important mental or emotional shift an athlete must make to successfully transition from active competitor to dedicated healer?
Yeah, so I think that so one of the things that I talk about is mindset, and mindset really is important for an athlete. So knowing that there's a lot of parts that go into the whole of an athlete, the exercise and diet are a huge part of it. Mindset is also a huge part of it, and the knowledge of, am I hurt? Did I do something wrong? Can I change something to improve my performance capacity? These are all things that are important from a mindset perspective to make sure that you have it. So getting those things that you need, and they may not be the same thing every time, is very important. And also having either a mentor or someone to talk to, whether it's a parent, a friend, mental performance coach. These are all things that are important to get yourself into the best, most optimal capacity possible.
The best optimal on methodology and practice, Mr. Michael.
Yeah.
Beyond the physical tissue, how do you assess and address the hidden injuries like loss of confidence, fear of re injury, or altered movement patterns that accompany a major physical setback?
Yeah. So again, physical and mental, I think, go together. So having that mental resistance is important. Sometimes it takes a shift in mindset from the fear to learning what happened to me that caused that injury. Do I need to strengthen the muscles around that particular joint? Am I weak on one side or the other? There's also a lot of research into balancing both sides. So there's a lot of equipment that you can get now that will measure the strength on one side versus the other. And one side, if it's too much stronger than the other side, that can cause injury on the weak side because the weak side just can't keep up. And this is a common thing you see in professional athletes that get injured, especially hamstring injuries with jumping and sprinting. There's one player on the Vikings who was getting injured his hamstring year after year, but when he brought his percentage of his weak leg up to about 95% of the strength of the strong side, his injuries went away. So it's important to find that balance too and make sure you're training equally on each side. And the realignment really helps to make sure that you can do that equally, and that symmetry and that relaxing of the muscles on both sides. Make sure that when you're doing your training, you can be balanced.
Yes, find the balance within people in everything we need to balance. What does a truly integrated therapy plan look like that seamlessly weaves together to modalities like manual therapy, corrective exercise, or nutrition and nervous system regulation?
Yeah, so realignment for me is the base because that's what I do as my base at my company. We do partner with physical therapists as well who can help to target that therapy around whatever the injury or whatever the weakness is. Some people it's just walking. Some athletes they need core. There's in my opinion a very low focus on core and posture as well. Core is really the base of everything. So if people have a strong core and strong posture, that really will support most of the peripheral systems as well. So I think that focusing on core primarily will only support and strengthen everything else.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And Mr. Michael, for maintenance, what are the key vital signs or biomarkers like mobility screens, HRV, or subjective feedback you monitor to catch a potential issue before it becomes a full blown injury?
Yeah, so HRV is great. People that track their runs, monitoring your time and making sure it's balanced with what your usual is. Um, Deep breathing exercises are great as well to make sure that you have that. If there's any difference, I think most athletes will know if they can't take a deep breath. But if you do that consistently, your VO2 max should stay up, your respiratory rate should stay up, and you should have very expanded lungs. So that oxygen transfer is great. Your best oxygen transfer comes at the distal parts of your lung. So keeping those open is very important. And getting a mix of the cardio and the weight training as well for most people. And there's very targeted weight training that you can do for each particular sport as well.
Yes, people, relax, take a deep breath, and, well, have a break sometimes.
Right.
Can you walk us through how you customize a healing protocol for the same injury in a 19-year-old rookie versus a 35-year-old veteran? What is a variable change the most?
Yeah. So young people heal faster.
Yes,
That's a good.
for sure.
So I think it's important just to make sure people realize that it doesn't mean that the older athletes won't heal. I see everybody, and I've had great success with, for instance, a 35-year-old guy who had an injury about 10 years prior and got knocked out of his sport. And through Shockwave, a little bit of realignment, we've gotten him into now considering trying out for a semi-pro soccer team. And then the young athletes, you do a few treatments on them, they're ready to go right away. So there's a little bit less focus on physical therapy and things like that because they're already in an intense workout program. For instance, if they're a college athlete, they'll be working with a trainer and a physical therapist and have a lot of that even recovery stuff in place already. So it's just getting those growth factors ramped up with Shockwave sometimes to get you back to close to 100%. And one of the things to remember for people is when you heal, a lot of times your body will form walls around where you heal in scar tissue. And the goal of Shockwave and magnet therapy is to get that scar tissue to minimize so that you don't have that residual pain and that residual issue that might cause an asymmetric response down the line.
How do you build trust and credibility with a high performing athlete who may be skeptical of any process that does not involve intense or sweat inducing work?
Yeah, so a lot of the stuff that I use, I try to make sure that there's a lot of research to back it up. So, shockwave magnet, these are things that definitely have a lot of research. Osteopathic manipulation as well. There's so it takes sometimes them coming in and getting a treatment really to be trusted. And over the last 4 years, I've been working really hard to build up trust in the community. And word of mouth has been huge. So if you get very good response from someone, they'll tell someone else, and those people come in, and then word of mouth just kind of builds. So there's still obviously pockets that don't know. There's two Division I colleges in the area that will have turnover of athletes. So people that come in that are new may not know us. So trying to go out and talk to their coaches, their athletic directors, have people come in, show them your success stories, let them try out the treatment, see how it works for them, and make sure that they understand that you get some immediate response, but also more long-term response. So while you might not get a response right away, some of these doing serial treatments, you'll see an additive response as you go forward.
Yes, to move forward. To move forward indeed. And Mr. Michael, describe an effective strategy for managing a three-way conversation between you, a frustrated athlete, and a coach who is focused on the upcoming season or game.
Yeah, so I've had these situations. Actually, one was a young athlete. His dad was his coach, so it was a little bit easier to have that three-way conversation because I know his dad through my kid's soccer club, but he had a hip injury, and he had known the treatment a little bit. But for coaches that don't know the treatment, it's really again, it's getting the evidence in front of the coaches. And I don't mind having those conversations. I think that's important too. Taking the time out to talk to people and to let them know like this is what I do, and wow, this is proven. They might not know that it's proven. So taking a few minutes and addressing any questions they might have is very important as well. And not being resistant to talking to people and having people question you is really important too. Because I think the less you allow someone to question you, the less they're going to want to work with you.
Yes, definitely. And Mr. Michael, as osteopath, Using hands on and generative therapies, what are your short term and long term goals?
Yeah, short-term goals are definitely one patient at a time. Make sure we kind of heal people. Long-term goals is to be the premier provider in the area and reach as many patients as we possibly can. Adding in partnerships for mindset and other partnerships that will support some of the other healing modalities that we may not have, or some of the more advanced things like a stem cell therapy, is important. So just building and making sure everybody has the option to heal as fast as possible and have the opportunity to access these as well.
Yes, build and build and build for the future. And Mr. Michael, good luck to your goals and looking forward for more success. And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there want to be like you?
Yeah, I think so at my base I started out as a general surgeon, fixing people that had a disease process. So one of the things that I did was it took a little bit to change my mindset and say, like, I can do something else. Just be open to new things, be open to changing your mindset, have a growth mindset where instead of saying, this is what I do, this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm going to stick to, be open to new ideas, new things, adding some things into your repertoire, and change if you have to. You don't have to have an education. And so for instance, like my older brother's class was all, he went to a fine arts school. So almost none of those people who are now successful ended up in their career, including my brother. And my brother is now a very successful video and public relations person for one of the major hospital systems. And he did his major in um, English literature and German. So you find those little things that work for you and you just compound and go with those things.
Interesting, Mr. Michael. Interesting indeed. And thank you for that advice. Can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Yeah, so one of my favorite books, I think, in this area, and one that really defines my outlook on the way medicine is becoming, is Outlive by Peter Attia. So this is a book who initially what he describes is the way medicine has evolved. So we had medicine 1.0, which he calls it, which was like the dark ages. It's like the humors and things like that that kind of try it out, see if it happens, no guarantees. Medicine 2.0 is what we have now. And really what helped that was the antibiotics. And antibiotics were a huge development, helping people get better from disease. Infections would kill people so quickly before they started coming out. And now we can get people through infection much more easily, um, from that standpoint. So now we have what's called Medicine 3.0, and this is really a preventative approach. And he calls it, instead of lifespan, health span. So the goal is to lengthen your lifespan and health span as much as possible. Lifespan is basically just how long you live. Health span is how long are you active and able to enjoy that lifespan. So four big things that get people are cardiovascular disease, cancer, neurodegenerative disease like the dementia, Alzheimer's, and Parkinson's, and then metabolic dysfunction, for instance, like diabetes. And he goes back to a lot of the same things that I talked about, getting the pillars of lifestyle medicine. So exercise, nutrition, sleep, emotional health, and then early screening and prevention. So focusing on a lot of these things and moving more towards a preventative outlook. Um, and if you start to feel bad, get some in-depth blood work, get something that will tell you what's wrong. If you feel like you need to be screened for a colonoscopy earlier than the recommendation, go in and be pushy about it. Be your own advocate in medicine, because unfortunately, the way that a lot of medical doctors are worked into the ground, it's not that they don't want to help you, it's that their hospital system may not give them the opportunity to help you and spend that time with you. And really, unfortunately, the way that insurance companies are, they don't really go towards preventative, they go more towards disease process. And if this person has something, then we'll pay for their tests. But be an advocate for yourself, make sure that you're doing all the things at a base that will keep you healthy, and you'll enjoy a better health span over your lifespan.
Indeed. And thank you for that recommended book, Mr. Michael. On performance and the bigger picture, tell us, how do you help an athlete reframe their identity when a major injury forces them away from the sport that defines them, even temporarily.
Yeah, so this is a big thing that I deal with a
Hmm.
lot, unfortunately. And it's very tough because these are people that have been doing their sport for sometimes 20, 30 years. So it's really about getting them back to that activity and helping them to have a realistic outlook. My goal is always to get them back to their baseline if possible. It's important to know sometimes, though, that it does take time to get back to that baseline, even if I'm able to heal. You got to do the weight training, you got to do the mobility training, the stretch, which is another thing that I think people don't focus on enough. I do preach like yoga because yoga is very good for, again, the breath work. The mobility adds in flexibility to your joints. You keep flexibility in your joints, you're going to be less likely to be injured. So it's really making sure they frame it in a more optimistic view, and they come to me and they look for help. And I say, we're going to start with this. If there's other things we need to do, we can move to that. Healing is multimodality, and if one thing doesn't necessarily work, there's other ways we can go.
Yes, there's another way to heal you, people. In what ways can a properly designed maintenance therapy program act as a competitive advantage beyond just keeping an athlete on the field?
Yeah, so I think again it goes back to mindset, right? Maintenance therapy of breath work, meditation, mindfulness really helps you to set yourself up very well. Um, Getting some PRs or some improvements in your strength, even if they're little, just make sure you're keeping track of it so that you can see them over long term and you're not looking short term all the time. um, Taking those small wins and seeing those as wins rather than stepping stones is important to make sure you stay optimistic as you reach towards your goals.
Optimistic people, be optimistic all the time, not pessimistic. It will help you more in the brighter side on the future and legacy. Mr. Michael, looking at youth sports today, what one fundamental change in how we approach training and recovery could prevent a chronic issue or issues we see in professional athletes later in their careers?
Yeah, so getting a lot of the recovery things in place for the younger athletes, I think, is important. There's a lot of pressure on young athletes to perform at high level. Um, there's a lot of young athletes that don't make it into the professional world. So, having the recovery from both a physical and mental standpoint put in from a younger age, improving stretch, for instance, when they ask these athletes to go out and sprint at 10, 11 years old, but they don't focus on prepping the joints for movement, those are things that definitely will lead to injury. So making sure parents, coaches, friends bring in those recovery things and those things that will prep your body for intense activity is very important as we move to a more intense athletic period for our younger folks.
So, Mr. Michael, tell us, as a regenerative medicine like advanced PRP, stem cells evolves, how will therapy's role shift from a primary healer to more of a guide and integrator of these technologies?
Yeah, so I think you've already seen a shift in medicine from healer to guide a little bit over the last probably 20 years, and that's a lot because patients are very much more informed right now, which some physicians take as a bad thing, but I think it's great to have people come in with some knowledge because they ask really good questions. And my job is more of a guide on, you have that research study. I can tell you a couple other ones that may contradict that or that may be better than that one to show you which way you should go. And there's, as new therapies come out, for instance, there's a German lab that just came out with a scaffold for repairing ACL injuries. So they basically inject the foam and some stem cells in, and the stem cells coat the cartilage on both sides of the knee, coat the ACL, and basically get your growth factors to go there to heal everything. So it's very futuristic, almost like Star Trek style medicine, where you just put something in there and they're better within a couple of weeks. It's really kind of crazy what is coming out now.
Mr. Michael, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please don't listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in third season, and my food 101 in sixth season as well. Geography 101, love letters, movie 101 review, music 101 in a fourth season, Science 101, Sex 101. Second in their second season, and my baby podcast, Law 101, Mental Health 101, Bible Verses 101, and Entrepreneur 101 coming this December. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Michael, ultimately, what is the greater purpose of this work? Is it to extend an athlete's career by a few seasons, or to ensure they have a high quality, functional life long after their final game?
Definitely the second. I think the first one's very important also, and they get those accolades that they're reaching for. But the second is the more important long term goal and will serve them better over their whole life.
Yes, indeed. So, Mr. Michael Betler, thank
Thank
you
you.
so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world.
Thank you,
So,
Dan.
can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or whatever projects that you're doing right
Yeah.
now?
Yeah. So find us at ctsportsrecovery.com. We are in Southwest Connecticut. We are at 203 You can text or call if you want to set up an appointment. Feel free to take care of or take advantage of any resources that are on there as well.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Michael Butler because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering athletes will rise. So, Mr. Michael, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate it.
Welcome, people. See you soon.